Sitting down with us today on the podcast, one of the newest members of the Ottawa Senators organization, former first-round draft pick, Zach Senyshyn. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we appreciate you hopping on here, especially as we were saying before we started recording, following the big bus trip down. You guys are in the thick of the playoff push right now. Obviously never easy swapping teams at any point, but if you at least do it in the off season, you kind of have training camp and all of that where you can get to know the guys. You're literally hopping right in here towards the end of the season, playoff push going on, really important games. How has that transition even been coming over from Providence and joining the boys in Belleville so far?
Definitely, it's been like a little bit of a whirlwind. I wasn't sure what was going to happen on trade deadline, and when I got that call, it was almost 24 hours, and I was on a different team and doing their meetings and pre-scouts and getting ready to hop into a new game. So it was a little bit of a whirlwind, but definitely it helped to have such great teammates here in Belleville and guys that were super welcoming and made me feel a part of the team right from the get-go. So it was nice in that sense, but definitely a little bit of a change of pace, kind of coming from a team that I'd been with and was comfortable with for 5 years, and then hopping in with a new team, making a playoff push where every game is almost do or die, where we're trying to make the playoffs. So it was definitely kind of a push right into the deep end, but I've been enjoying every moment of it so far.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned it right there. You've been in the AHL for a couple seasons now, and you've probably either played against some of these guys in the AHL or even in different leagues coming up. So it's a little bit different for you than, say, someone coming over from Europe and doesn't know anyone here. Like, was there anyone that you already had maybe either an existing relationship with or you already knew coming into this team that made that transition a little bit easier for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, Scott Sabourin and Zach Leslie are two Ottawa guys that I knew from the summers before, and again, guys that I'd seen around the rinks in the summer with COVID and everything. We had a lot of those skates in the summer where we were all together, which was nice to have a couple of familiar faces. But definitely, there's a little bit of sweat going on when I was trying to think back to the last game I played Belleville. If I was chirping anyone or if they're chirping me, I was definitely a little bit nervous, but yeah, no, everyone's been awesome, and it's been nice to meet some new guys that have been good competitors on the other end too. Like Belleville beat us twice this year playing with Providence, so it was interesting to kind of see their group dynamic and see how they played and why they were successful.
Yeah. And making that transition too, when you first joined the team and you met with the coaching staff and everything, what was sort of the messaging that they gave you? Were they looking at transitioning your role at all? Or was it essentially, hey, we like what you were doing in Providence, just bring that same energy over here, don't change a thing?
I think there's a little bit of both, where the systems are very different here, and again, it's so integral, especially at this part of the season, that everyone's on the same page and everyone's doing the right things to win. But obviously, the coaches were really good in the sense that I hadn't been here for the previous 6 months or 7 months that they'd been playing, so they gave me a little bit of leeway or a little bit of slack when it came to systems, and just wanted me to play my game and be successful and do what made me successful with Providence. But it's definitely been a little bit of a learning process, and in trying to adapt and find my certain role with this team.
Yeah. And I mean, you're now coming up on essentially a dozen games played with this squad, and the Senators and their fan base, they always like to come up with adjectives to describe the teams, right? So they're the pesky Sens or the sicko Sens, they're the this, they're that. If you had to pick an adjective to describe this group of guys through the first dozen games, what comes to mind instantly for you?
I'd probably say relentless. Like these guys, they play physical, they play fast, and honestly, it's nice. It's a different change of pace from Providence, and the skill sets. Like the one thing I have to say about this team is that the details and definitely their work ethic is unmatched here. You're never going to see a game where you're going to see guys being lazy out there, guys not putting in their best effort. It's nice to see, and it's nice to be a part of. And again, it's nice to kind of like battle with these guys and hopefully again make an awesome playoff push here.
Yeah. So if we turn back time a little bit and we go back to the actual NHL trade deadline, obviously you come over here, Josh Brown heads over to Boston, there's some picks exchanged, all of that. But every athlete we talk to, regardless of whether it's hockey or football, baseball, whatever, that goes through a trade always has a unique experience when they're changing teams, they're changing cities, all of that. Walk us through, like, what did that day when you finally got the news that, hey, by the way, you're heading back to Ottawa, like, what did that day look like for you from the time you woke up to the time you actually got the news that you were traded?
Well, like again, I'd put in for a trade request earlier this season, and it went public, which was hard on me. Where again, I loved all my teammates in Providence, and I had such an unbelievable experience with everyone there. It's just like I felt as though I needed a change, and again, it had been 5 years there, and it had been a long time coming. And but then there was a long portion of the season where nothing had really happened, so I wasn't really expecting to be traded that day, and especially on the very last, again, couple hours even.
Mm-hmm.
But I was fortunate enough. I had my mom down, and we were in Providence, sitting around when I got the call from the GM the GM in Boston. But I didn't really know where I was going yet. First, he called me and kind of let me know that I'd been traded, but wouldn't disclose the location. But definitely when I found out it was Ottawa, it was a dream come true, because again, it was my first pick. It was the one team I wanted to go to more than anyone else. Like I was the kid that was on the end of the street cheering for the Sens when we went to the Cup Finals in '06. And again, I knew every single player and all their stats. It was my childhood team, and and still to this day, again, a giant Sens fan. So all I want to do is, again, anything to help this team, and to be able to come home is a whole nother story. So I think it was a shock factor, and there was definitely emotional saying goodbye to, again, teammates I've had for 5 years. So it was an emotional day, but I mean, I was overjoyed. I was ecstatic to come here, and hopefully spend a lot more time here, and be able to help this team.
Well, there you go. I know the Sens fans that are listening will appreciate the fact that you're from Ottawa and actually cheered for Ottawa. You weren't one of those Leafs fans that was transplanted here or anything like that. So that'll
No,
make
I
some
was
fans happy.
yeah, I was happy to cheer every Leafs elimination day, but it was always brutal going to school in the mornings. If the Leafs ever beat us, you'd hear it from all the other kids at school. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was definitely always a Sens fan.
Yeah. Well, you already mentioned, obviously, mom was down there. So I would assume she was the first one that found out. Who was the first phone call you made once you found out that, hey, I'm going to Ottawa? Who was the first person you let know about that news there?
My dad and my sister, and so my dad was my first call. Where again, he had kind of had always kind of hoped that they would move me on to greener pastures, but again, it was nice to be able to share that moment with him. And obviously, he's been such a big part of my hockey career, other than my mom, of course. But definitely talking to family and being able to say, "Hey, I'm coming home," is such a unique experience. Where even like Belleville is, I consider home, because it's just so close to Ottawa. I'd spent a lot of my childhood playing minor hockey tournaments in that rink, and again, just being a part of that city. So it's nice to be back on Canadian soil, and it was nice to be able to share all that news with all the people I love.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you probably hear some things through, whether it's social media or, your agents kind of keeping you in the loop as far as who's kicking tires on things heading into trade deadline. Like, did you have any sense that Ottawa had some interest in bringing you there? Or was it complete shock once you found out that this mystery team that the GM informed you of was in fact your hometown Ottawa Senators?
Obviously, I'd skated and trained with a lot of the Ottawa Senators personnel and players, and through the course of my whole career, really, it's they have such amazing facilities and stuff around. And I'd hoped that they'd taken a liking to me as a player, but it was kind of a shock at that point, just because it all happened so fast, and I didn't really think I was getting moved that day.
Yeah. Well, if we look back to your time in Boston there as well, too, obviously, you know, you have some fantastic moments. You get called up, you score your first NHL goal with the Bruins, all of that good stuff. But whether you're in hockey, whether you're in football, whatever the sport is, when anytime you're a first round draft pick, there's always hyper expectations around that prospect and what they could do for the franchise and all of that. And I mean, you look at you, DeBrusk, Zaboral, the three of you in a unique situation where rarely do you ever see back-to-back picks, let alone back-to-back-to-back picks there. Like, what did it feel like going through the very, very high expectations of not only a hockey city, but a hyperactive sports market like Boston, and trying to navigate that as a 19, 20-year-old kid?
Definitely was difficult because, again, as you said, it's Boston, super high expectations. They're a big hockey city, and they've got some of the best fans in the world.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's something that that's awesome to play for, and it's a great feeling to be a part of it. But with those extreme highs come extreme lows too. It's a roller coaster, and like I remember like the draft day was like one of the best days of my life, where you get to go up on stage and shake your Bedman's hand and put on that Bruins jersey. It was incredible. But then and then you get an onslaught of social media where you're just getting torn into from people you don't know, and again, you haven't even played a game yet, and yet people don't like you already. It's difficult to navigate, especially at 18. To be able to put that phone away, especially with the way society is now, like everyone's got their phones in their hands all the time. It was hard for me to shut that off and kind of be able to separate it. And I was very, very fortunate to have again Jake DeBrusk and Jakob Zaboral with me to kind of navigate that and to kind of talk with them and kind of talk about those ups and downs and all the amazing things that come with Boston and all the stuff that can kind of suck sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'll always be eternally grateful to have those guys and to have those friends still to this day that I talk to very frequently. And they were really good in that sense, but it was definitely difficult. And the first couple of seasons, they took their time with us and before even giving us a sniff. So it was difficult. It was very difficult, but honestly, I've always been a big believer that adversity was always going to make you stronger, is always going to make you better. And you know what? Maybe I had to go through all of that stuff to be the person, the player that I am today, to help this team and to again fulfill like what I need to do in the NHL.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, Bruins, a fairly veteran laden team, tough for any rookie to come in and crack that roster there. Is that something that you actually openly discussed, some of those things that you were going through with DeBrusk and Zaboral there? Or did you guys kind of just have an unspoken, yeah, okay, I'm going through it too? Like, was it an open thing that you would regularly touch base with one another on, or at all?
We would kind of bounce stuff off of each other. Absolutely. Like, I mean, me and DeBrusk too, like both forwards, like off seasons where they would bring in veteran players or free agent signings, trading, like it almost like, again, a little bit more for certain guys, and not to say that me and Jake were the only two guys to go through it. A lot of other players in the Bruins organization, still in Providence, still incredible players that have definitely earned the right to play in the NHL. Got passed over, and it's something that, like, again, we all kind of talked about, and we were all able to sympathize with each other. But at the end of the day, we're all like, are we gonna whine about it, or are we gonna get better? And until they can't say no to us, and that's the one thing that we've all kind of focused on, and we all kind of help push each other to do, is to kind of crack that NHL lineup, because again, it's such a hard thing to do in Boston. But again, I like to always try to focus on those silver linings and always be like, okay, well, you know what, this is just going to make me push that much harder, work that much harder to get to that level. And they do have a great group of guys up there that help you navigate certain camps and certain things. So it was nice to have those guys.
Yeah. Now that you're over with the Senators organization here, obviously all the focus right now. You guys are trying to push for the playoffs and, make a run through the AHL playoffs and possibly win the Calder Cup. But have you had a chance yet to sit down with, the Sens front office and Dorian and co. and sort of figure out, all right, if I want to be a part of Sens opening lineup, 2022-23, I need to work on area A, B, or C? Like, have you had those conversations, or is it sort of just focus on, Belleville right now, and in the off season we'll debrief with things?
Yeah, no, I think it's just been more about focusing on what I'm doing here in Belleville, and again, finding my identity with this team and doing everything I can to help this team win. Like, I think that's a big reason why they brought me in, and I think I still have a lot of work to do with working with the excellent coaches here and being able to kind of use my game to the best of the abilities to not only fit into this team, but hopefully set myself up to fit in up top and to be able to help them up there and kind of find my game, because essentially that's what I'm here to do. It's not do again what my personal goals are, but it's to do whatever they need me to help that team win. So that's one thing that they always instilled with me with Boston, and that's something I hope to always bring and carry with me, is that the team is the most important thing, and getting those wins is the most important thing. It doesn't matter whether it's being a PK guy and being a lower line guy, which I was able to do in Providence, or being a top line guy or a power play guy, which I was able to kind of move my game into later on in my career. But that's one thing I haven't been able to talk with them yet, but I've been able to talk very closely with the coaches here, and they've been nothing but supportive and helpful, and trying to find what I'm going to do here.
Yeah. Now, for the more hardcore Sens fans, they're very well invested in, the Mann brothers and all that they've done, not only in Belleville, but in scouting and all of that as well, too, to help this franchise. But for those who may only hear the Mann's names come up on draft day, essentially, maybe can you just speak a little bit about what kind of a culture they're trying to build down there in Belleville and what they're actually like, day to day as coaches?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, when I first was playing in Providence, Troy Mann was the head coach in Hershey, and we had some pretty tight battles with them, going through the playoffs there, and going even through the regular season, playing in the same division. But when he came here, I had heard such high things about not only himself but the rest of the staff here, and but it's been really cool to see how much detail and how much execution goes into everyday life here, where whether it's practices, whether it's like face-off plans, whether it's team meetings, it's very intricate, and it's very cool to see how much work and how much time these guys put into just purely player development. And they give you all the tools you need to take your game to the next level. And that's one thing that I've noticed from being here, is that they definitely leave it all into your hands.
Amazing. Well, we know you've got a bunch of games to prepare for, so we won't keep you too much longer, but we're going to ask you to give some of the listeners here just a quick, boots on the ground scouting report on a couple of the teammates that you've now acquired over there. And we don't want this giant in-depth run-on sentence or anything like that. Just one sentence, short and sweet, about the following players, how you would sort of describe their game out there in Belleville. So let's start off with Lassie Thompson. How would you describe his game?
So he was a guy I didn't really know too much about, really, but one thing I've noticed so far is he's an unbelievable skater. His shot is unbelievable, and not to mention a great teammate. He's really funny, and again, I'm just slowly learning these little things. But what a great offensive defenseman that I've noticed so far, and seriously, sky's the limit with him.
Amazing. All right, what about JBD?
Yeah, again, great kid. Always has a smile on his face when he comes to the rink, and again, such a smooth skater. And you know what, his defensive play and seeing him up in the rush, kind of like always supporting, always being that fourth guy in the zone, and it's nice to have, and it's definitely a lot of potential with him as well.
Mark Kastelik.
I've never seen someone win so many faceoffs in my whole entire life. Like this guy, Like he's like a Patrice Bergeron in the circle. It's incredible. And he's strong as an ox, can skate. Like I think he definitely could be the next generation, like again, power forward, like where you see that Tom Wilson, where he's not only hitting guys, he's physical, he can fight, he can score. Like it's one of those things where I don't even know if we have. I can't loop him into like power forward because he's more than that. Like and I think that's a cool role that he can kind of move himself into.
Igor Sokolov.
I mean, he can shoot the puck from anywhere and it's got a chance. It's give him an inch and he'll take it. Like he's a pure goal scorer, and that's all that can be said. Is that he's a big body, but there's nothing like that shot. And as a righty, and kind of being able to do some goal scoring drills with him, it's cool to kind of challenge each other and kind of push each other a little bit to kind of find those areas.
Järventie.
He's got great speed, and he's really good with the puck. And obviously, the one thing that kind of stuck out to me with Roby was his vision, where he's able to make these plays that haven't even developed yet, but he's already kind of seen them. So it's cool to see, especially from such a young kid.
All right, last one, a new face, only a couple of games in there, but Victor Loden.
Yeah, no, he's been a cool addition, and obviously I've only seen him for 2 games, but he seems to have great control with the puck, and definitely such a soft touch. Again, you always find that with the Swedes that they're pretty smooth with the puck. But yeah, no, it'll be cool to see how he develops and how he finds his game on the North American ice, because it's different. And again, just as I'm trying to find my game here, I'm sure he is too. So it's nice to see his kind of hands and see what he'll be able to do in these next couple games.
Amazing. Well, we appreciate you taking the time. Maybe we'll end on this note here. Because you grew up as a Sens fan, what was your most memorable Sens moment growing up as a kid watching this team?
Growing up watching the team, I think it was when we won the Eastern Conference Finals. When we won there, or no, I gotta say I was a giant Danny Heatley fan. Okay. And seeing him score 50 in 07 was just all time. I've always wanted to be a goal scorer and always wanted to score goals at that level, but he kind of instilled a lot of that passion in scoring goals and how much fun that was. But him, Alfie, and Spezza was the coolest. So watching him score 50, I was ecstatic, and definitely still to this day makes scoring goals a lot of fun.
How many free slices of pizza did he earn you over the years there with the pizza line?
Too many. Yeah, maybe that's why he's my favorite.
There you go. All right, Zach, we appreciate you sitting down with us. Best of luck down the stretch, and yeah, wish all of your teammates in Belleville good luck from us up here in Ottawa.
Thanks, absolutely. Thanks for having me.